Morning, good morning. It's a lovely spring day here in Folsom, California, 2025, in the year of our Lord 2025. It is a lovely spring day where you can have all the windows and doors open and it's a little chilly and then the sun comes out and then it's kind of hot, but oh, it feels good. If I had a whole house fan, I'd be pumping that sucker right now. It's so nice and lovely. And I've got my little soda stream and I've started drinking sparkling lemon water because it's so good. And I can't get enough. I pumped that thing. I said, give me more sparkles. Sparkles. Bubbles. I want more bubbles. I can't get enough bubbles. And I keep pushing it, and it's like, I'm gonna overflow, I'm gonna explode. And I'm like, more bubbles. And that's what I do. I think it's a good time for lemon water. Seasonally, if we were going by the seasons, I think it's a good time. It's like a good detoxification from the heaviness of winter, all the stews and heavy foods that we eat in winter. I think lemon water is a good thing. I've got Janie here with me, Jane Austen. I've got my freaking lavender water that she's inspired me to make, and it's lovely. I just refilled it with a little more water, and I got my little rock here that says, breathe. Just breathe. Okay. Mr. John Dashwood is in London currently in this book, and he just met up with Elinor and Marianne at the jewelry shop where we met up with him, and golly, what an obnoxious person. He's so rich and took all of Daddy's fortune, all of their father's fortune, and all he does is complain about money. And that beautiful sentence that I will read again because I loved it so much. I should have underlined it, and I have a pen with me right now. He had just compunction enough for having done nothing for his sisters himself to be exceedingly anxious that everybody else should do a great deal. And an offer from Colonel Brandon, or a legacy from Mrs. Jennings, was the easiest means of atoning for his neglect. That's what we just read. It's the perfect summary of who Mr. John Dashwood is to me. It's like little dog ears today. That's cute. So now we are on Volume 2 of Sense and Sensibility, Chapter 12. And Volume 3, there's a Volume 3. So here we go. We're in London. We're in London, babe. We just met up with John Dashwood and his family, and Fanny. His wife Fanny's in town as well. Chapter 12. Mrs. John Dashwood had so much confidence in her husband's judgment that she waited the very next day for both on Mrs. Jennings and her daughter. And her confidence was rewarded by finding even the former, even the woman with whom her sisters were staying, by no means unworthy her notice. And as for Lady Middleton, she found her one of the most charming women in the world. That's so funny to me. I was listening to my last video just to make sure I don't sound like a bumbling idiot. And there was a thing that was like, a sentence that was like, this is the most amazing. I think it was about the toothpick box. Was it about the toothpick box? Where it was like, this is the most amazing thing in all of existence. These like super hyperbole, like the most charming woman in the world. But when I'm just thinking about that, their world was like so small. Like they couldn't just jump on a plane and like head over to America. Like their world was like London, and I forget where they live. Northamptonville Shire. Where do they live? Not Barton. They live in wherever they live, I forget. But their world is so small. So saying like the most charming woman in the world is like in their world. But to me, I'm like, you meet so many people every day from around the whole entire world. And this Lady Middleton is the most charming person you've ever met in the whole world. Their world was so small. That's what I'm thinking about. Little Jane on her little teeny tiny desk writing, like, the most incredible woman in existence. I still want to know what she sounded like. What did Jane Austen sound like? Okay, sorry. Lady Middleton was equally pleased with Mrs. Dashwood. Really? With Fanny? There was a kind of cold-hearted selfishness on both sides, which mutually attracted them. Okay, that makes more sense. And they sympathized with each other in an insipid propriety of demeanor and a general want of understanding. The same manners, however, which recommended Mrs. John Dashwood to the good opinion of Lady Middleton, did not suit the fancy of Mrs. Jennings. And to her she appeared nothing more than a little proud-looking woman of uncordial address, who met her husband's sister without any affection and almost without having anything to say to them. For the quarter of an hour bestowed on Berkeley Street, she sat at 7 minutes and a half in silence. She sat at least 7 minutes and a half in silence. It does sound like way more time to say a quarter of an hour than just to say 15 minutes. Because I'm like, a quarter of an hour, God. But it's just 15 minutes. Good on you, Jane. Elinor wanted very much to know, though she did not choose. Wow, Chuse. That makes more sense. Why did we change it? I actually, like, sounded it out, and it was perfect. Choose. C-H-Use. That's how we should spell it. Why did we change it? Elinor wanted very much to know, though she did not choose to ask, whether Edward was then in town. Right. But nothing would have induced Fanny voluntarily to mention his name before her, till Abel, because that's her brother, and she's awful, till able to tell her that his marriage with Miss Morton was resolved on, or till her husband's expectation on Colonel Brandon were answered, because she believed them still so very much attached to each other that they could not be too sedulously divided in word and deed on every occasion. That they could not be too sedulously divided in word and deed on every action. Sedulously. It sounds like the word seduction, and I don't know what it means, so I've got to look it up. We've been watching a lot of Rocky lately, so I've been talking like this a lot. Yo, Adrian. It's actually, I did not think that Rocky and Rocky 2 were going to be as funny as they were. And I also forgot that Sylvester Stallone wrote and directed that movie and starred in it. And it was, for what it was, he's real. Yo, Adrian. Yo, Adrian. I love that he did really good. Sedulously. This is why I didn't do well in school. Okay, with diligence, careful effort, and persistence. I like to have the windows open, but you can hear all the ruckus outside. Sedulously means with diligence, careful effort, and persistence. Describes an action performed with a strong and persistent effort, marked by care and perseverance. Think of it as a formal way of saying diligently or carefully. Nothing to do with seduction, although that can be persistent, I guess. That's interesting. Seduction can be... Okay, can we just see how to say it? Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm saying it right, because I have to be right all the time, or else I'm stupid. I don't need a minute-long video.
Sedulously.
Okay. Why did she... These people who say this, she said, sedulously. God. Okay. Sorry. That they could not be too sedulously... okay, she really, really, really wants them to be divided in word and deed on every occasion. Okay, I see. Okay, Fanny. Okay, Jane. The intelligence, however, which she would not give, soon flowed from another quarter. Lucy came very shortly to claim Elinor's compassion on being unable to see Edward, though she had arrived in town with Mr. and Mrs. Dashwood. He dared not come to Bartlett's buildings for fear of dejection, and though their mutual impatience to meet was not to be told, they could do nothing at present but write. Edward assured them himself of his being in town within a very short time by twice calling in Berkeley Street. Twice was his card found on the table when they returned from their morning's engagements. Elinor was pleased that he had called, and still more pleased that she had missed him, because she's like, clearing, saging, lavender water, Edward and Lucy, get out, right? I get it. The Dashwoods were so prodigiously delighted with the Middletons that, though not much in the habit of giving anything, they determined to give them a dinner, and soon after their acquaintance began, invited them to dine in Harley Street, where they had taken a very good house for 3 months. Their sisters and Mrs. Jennings were invited likewise, and John Dashwood was careful to secure Colonel Brandon, who, always glad to be where the Miss Dashwoods were, received his eager civilities with some surprise, but much more pleasure. They were to meet Mrs. Ferrars, but Elinor could not learn whether her sons were to be of the party. She's doing everything in secret, where Marianne was like, is he going to be there? Is Willoughby going to be there? Blah, blah, blah. Willoughby! It's a lot. Was she really like that? No, just in my brain she was like that. The expectation of seeing her, however, was enough to make her interested in the engagement, for though she could now meet Edward's mother without that strong anxiety which had once promised to attend such an introduction, though she could now see her with perfect indifference as to her opinion of herself, her desire of being in company with Mrs. Ferrars, her curiosity to know what she was like, was as lively as ever. The interest with which she thus anticipated the party was soon afterwards increased, more powerfully than pleasantly, by her hearing that the Miss Steeles were also to be at it. The Miss Steeles are coming too. God. Well, we'll see. We'll see how this interaction goes. This will be so fun. To be a fly on the wall at this party. Oh, we will. We're literally going to be a fly on the wall at this party because Jane has written it down in this book. So well had they recommended themselves to Lady Middleton. So agreeable had their assiduities made them to her. I might have already looked it up. Assiduity. Constant or close attention to what one is doing. Where do these words come from? That's a whole nother YouTube channel, really. So agreeable had their assiduities made them to her, that though Lucy was scarcely elegant, and her sister was not even genteel, she was as ready as Sir John to ask them to spend a week or two in Conduit Street. And it happened to be particularly convenient to the Miss Steeles, as soon as the Dashwoods' invitation was known, that their visit should begin a few days before the party took place. Their claims on the notice of Mrs. John Dashwood, as the nieces of the gentleman who for many years had had the care of her brother, might not have done much, however, towards procuring them seats at her table, but as Lady Middleton's guests they must be welcome, and Lucy, who had long waited to be personally known to the family, to have a nearer view of their characters and her own difficulties, and to have an opportunity of endeavouring to please them, had seldom been happier in her life than she was on receiving Mrs. John Dashwood's card. Never in my whole entire life could I be this happy. Okay. On Elinor, its effect was very different. She began immediately to determine that Edward, who lived with his mother, must be asked, as his mother was, to a party given by his sister, and to see him for the first time after all that passed in the company of Lucy. She hardly knew how she could bear it. These apprehensions, perhaps, were not founded entirely on reason, and certainly not at all on truth. They were relieved, however, not by her own recollection, by the goodwill of Lucy, who believed herself to be inflicted a severe disappointment when she told her that Edward certainly would not be in Harley Street on Tuesday, and even hoped to be carrying the pain still farther by persuading her that he was kept away by the extreme affection for herself, which he could not conceal when they were together. That he's so in love with her that he couldn't even possibly keep a hand off her because he's so in love with her in the company of everybody else, and that's why he's not going to be there. And that's what she thinks. The important Tuesday came that was to introduce the two young ladies to this formidable mother-in-law. "Pity me, dear Miss Dashwood," said Lucy, as they walked up the stairs together, for the Middletons arrived so directly after Mrs. Jennings that they all followed the servant at the same time. "There is nobody here but you that can feel for me. I declare I can hardly stand. Good gracious! In a moment I shall see the person that all my happiness depends on. That is to be my mother." Okay. Elinor could have given her immediate relief by suggesting the possibility of its being Miss Morton's mother rather than her own, whom they were about to behold, but instead of doing that, she assured her, and with great sincerity, that she did pity her. "I do pity you," to the utter amazement of Lucy, who, though really uncomfortable herself, hoped at least to be an object of irrepressible envy to Elinor. "I hope I am an object of irrepressible envy to you." Ugh. Mrs. Ferrars was a little thin woman, upright even to formality in her figure, and serious even to sourness in her aspect. Her complexion was sallow, and her features small, without beauty and naturally without expression. But Jane Austen just described what we now call, in this present day, resting bitch face. But so much more elegantly. That's so funny. Sourness in her aspect. Complexion was sallow, and her features small, without beauty, and naturally without expression. That's funny. But a lucky contraction of the brow had rescued a countenance from the disgrace of insipidity by giving it the strong characters of pride and ill nature. That's resting bitch face. We'll call it RBF. That's so funny. She was not a woman of many words, for unlike people in general, she proportioned them to the number of her ideas. And of the few syllables that did escape her, not one fell to the share of Miss Dashwood, whom she eyed with the spirited determination of disliking her at all events. Oh my gosh! She was not a woman of many words, for unlike people in general, she proportioned them to the number of her ideas, and of the few syllables that did escape her, not one fell to the share of Miss Dashwood, whom she eyed with the spirited determination of disliking her at all events. I love Jane Austen. I can't believe this is the perfect time of life to be getting into this. This is amazing, and I love it, and thank you all for watching. Elinor could not now be made unhappy by this behavior. A few months ago it would have hurt her exceedingly, but it was not in Mrs. Ferrars's power to distress her by it now. And the difference of her manners to the Miss Steeles, a difference which seemed purposely made to humble her more, only amused her. Yeah, kind of after seeing somebody really, really get screwed in love, like in the matters of love, like watching Marianne go through some terrible, awful, like unbelievable story, you're kind of like, this is all kind of amusing to me now. Like, I don't even want to be involved anymore. It's just kind of fun to like sit back, and I guess I liked Edward at one time, but there's a lot going on. This whole family and Lucy, there's just a lot happening, and I'm just gonna sit back and be amused by it. Why don't I? Good for you, Elinor. Sense and sensibility. She could not but smile to see the graciousness of both mother and daughter towards the very person, for Lucy was particularly distinguished, whom of all others, had they known as much as she did, they would have been most anxious to mortify, while she herself, who had comparatively no power to wound them, sat pointedly slighted by both. But while she smiled at a graciousness so misapplied, she could not reflect on the mean-spirited folly from which it sprung, nor observe the studied attentions with which the Miss Steeles courted its countenance, without thoroughly despising them all four. F-O-U-R-4, all four of them. Lucy was all exultation on being so honorably distinguished, and Miss Steele wanted only to be teased about Dr. Davies to be perfectly happy. The dinner was a grand one, the servants were numerous, and everything bespoke the mistress's inclination for show and the master's ability to support it, in spite of the improvements and additions which were making to the Norland estate. Norland, that's where they live. God bless Kurt. And in spite of its owner having once been within some £1,000 of being obliged to sell out at a loss, nothing gave any symptom of that indigence, which he had tried to infer from it. I'm just gonna, because all these words sound like something indigence, a state of extreme poverty.
Indigence.
Yeah, indigence. Nothing gave any symptom of that indigence which he had tried to infer from it. Right. Yeah. I think Mr. Dashwood really thinks he's poor, but he's got like 4 houses and he's selling it at a loss, and like, I can't even. No poverty of any kind except of conversation appeared. That's so funny to me, too. No poverty of any kind, except of conversation, appeared. But there the deficiency was considerable. John Dashwood had not much to say for himself that was worth hearing, and his wife had still less. We don't care if you're absolutely disgustingly rich but also claim to be really poor. You're poor at conversing with everyone, and everybody can hear it, and yikes. But there was no peculiar disgrace in this, for it was very much the case with the chief of their visitors, who almost all laboured under one or other of these disqualifications for being agreeable: want of sense, either natural or improved, want of elegance, want of spirits, or want of temper. When these ladies withdrew to the drawing-room after dinner, their poverty was particularly evident, for the gentleman had supplied the discourse with some variety, the variety of politics, enclosing land, and breaking horses, but then it was all over, and one subject only engaged the ladies till tea came in, which was the comparative heights of Harry Dashwood and Lady Middleton's second son, William, who were nearly of the same age. They were discussing how tall two people were. What a nightmare. Oh, ay. Had both the children been there, the affair might have been determined too easily by measuring them at once. Oh, Harry and sons, their children, right. The height of these children. Put them up against a wall, get a pencil, and mark it out. And then call each other, but you can't call anybody, and I don't even think they have pencils. It's just ink pens. God. Had both the children been there, the affair might have been determined too easily by measuring them at once. But, as Harry only was present, it was all conjectural assertion on both sides, and everybody had a right to be equally positive in their opinion, and to repeat it over and over and over again as often as they liked. Cool. It's the end of the party, and all the fun, cool people that were just keeping it barely together have left. And now everybody's going around talking about, no, I think this kid's taller. No, it couldn't be possible. I think this child's taller. He's 1 month older. Oh, is he really? Oh, could you imagine? The parties stood thus. Oh, we're going to get into it. The two mothers, though each really convinced that their own son was the tallest, politely decided in favor of the other. The two grandmothers, with not less partiality but more sincerity, were equally earnest in support of their own descendant. Lucy, who was hardly less anxious to please one parent than the other, thought the boys were both remarkably tall for their age, and could not conceive that there could be the smallest difference in the world between them. And Miss Steele, with yet greater address, gave it as fast as she could in favor of each. Elinor, having once delivered her opinion on William's side, by which she offended Mrs. Ferrars and Fanny still more, did not see the necessity of enforcing it by any farther assertion, and Marianne, when called on for hers, offended them all by declaring that she had no opinion to give, and she had never thought about it. This whole passage to me reads sarcasm, and this is so funny to me. She's like she like didn't have to. Jane Austen did not have to go into the contents of this conversation, and she did. And I love that Marianne was like, I actually don't even remember your children, and I haven't even, like, why would I think about their heights? Like, I just don't think about people's heights. Marianne reminds me so much of my friend Nicole. It's uncanny, and it's really funny to me. I don't think about people's heights. I can't, like, see the person in front of me. Like, it's so hard to just, like, imagine a person's height. I can just hear Nicole going off about this. It's so Marianne. That's so funny to me. I just want to eat this sun right now. It feels like I'm in a commercial for the sun. This is so funny to me. Let's sit around and talk about our children's heights. Before her removing from Norland, Elinor had painted a very pretty pair of screens for her sister-in-law. Ooh, there's something in the back about screens. Screens. A screen was a frame covered with paper, cloth, or thin wood with a handle by which a person could hold it between his or her face and a fire. Oh! I don't know why that's cracking me up right now. But I was thinking it was like some sort of art. I was thinking it was going to be like, you take this thing and then you paint on it and it's a screen. But it's literally just something you hold in front of your face so the fire doesn't get you too hot. That's really funny. Okay, sorry, I'm giggly this morning. Okay, before her removing from Norland, Elinor had painted a very pretty... Oh, she did paint them. Huh. Wouldn't the paint just melt? I guess it wouldn't. Okay. Elinor had painted a very pretty pair of screens for her sister-in-law, which, being now just mounted and brought home, ornamented her present drawing room, and these screens, catching the eye of John Dashwood on his following the other gentleman into the room, were officiously handed by him to Colonel Brandon for his admiration. "These are done by my eldest sister," said he, "and you, as a man of taste, will, I dare say, be pleased with them. I do not know whether you have happened to see any of her performances before, but she is in general reckoned to draw extremely well." The Colonel, though disclaiming all pretensions to connoisseurship, warmly admired these screens, as he would have done anything painted by Miss Dashwood, and the curiosity of the others being of course excited, they were handed round for general inspection. Inspecting the screens, the men are. Mrs. Ferrars, not aware of their being Elinor's work. Oh, it was Elinor. Oh, for some reason I thought it was Marianne. Elinor. Particularly requested to look at them, and after they had received the gratifying testimony of Lady Middleton's approbation, Fanny presented them to her mother, considerately informing her at the same time that they were done by Miss Dashwood. Said Mrs. Ferrars, "very pretty," and without regarding them at all, returned them to her daughter. Perhaps Fanny thought for a moment that her mother had been quite rude enough, for colouring a little, she immediately said, "They are very pretty, ma'am, aren't they?" But then began the dread of having been too civil, too encouraging herself, probably came over to her, for she presently added, "Do you not think there is something in Miss Morton's style of painting, ma'am? She does paint most delightfully. How beautifully her last landscape is done. Beautifully indeed, but she does everything well." Marianne could not bear this. Uh-oh. Marianne's been out of society for a little bit, and I feel like she's about to lose it. Marianne could not bear this. She was already greatly displeased with Mrs. Ferrars, and such ill-timed praise of another at Elinor's expense, though she had not any notion of what was principally meant by it, provoked her immediately to say this with warmth. Oh my God. "This is admiration of a very peculiar kind. What is Miss Morton to us? Who knows or who cares for her? It is Elinor whom we think and speak." Why do you even bring up Miss Morton? We're talking about Elinor, and she's literally standing right in front of us, and we like her. This is weird admiration. And so saying, she took the screens out of her sister-in-law's hands to admire them herself, as they ought to be admired. Mrs. Ferrars looked exceedingly angry, and drawing herself up more stiffly than ever, pronounced in retort to this bitter philippic. It's in the back, hold on, philippic. Bitter invective, derived from the 4th century orations of Demosthenes against the ambitious Philip, king of Macedon. Wow. Jane Austen had some words in her arsenal, huh? Philippic. "Miss Morton is Lord Morton's daughter." Yeah. Yeah. Right, we assumed that much. That she's somebody's daughter. That's funny. Fanny looked very angry too, and her husband was all in fright at her sister's audacity. Elinor was much more hurt by Marianne's warmth than she had been by what produced it. She had been hurt by Marianne's warmth? But Colonel Brandon's eyes, as they fixed on Marianne, declared that he noticed all that what was amiable in it. The affectionate heart which could not bear to see a sister slighted in the smallest point. Colonel Brandon. Marianne's feelings did not stop here. The cold insolence of Mrs. Ferrars's general behaviour to her sister seemed to her to foretell such difficulties and distress to Elinor as her own wounded heart taught her to think of it with horror, and urged by a strong impulse of affectionate sensibility, she moved after a moment to her sister's chair, and putting one arm around her neck and one cheek close to hers said in a low but eager voice, "Dear, dear Elinor, don't mind them. Don't let them make you unhappy." She could say no more. Her spirits were quite overcome, and hiding a face in Elinor's shoulder, she burst into tears. "Marianne, no! Oh no! Oh no!" Everybody's attention was called, and almost everybody was concerned. Colonel Brandon rose up and went to them without knowing what he did. Mrs. Jennings was a very intelligent, poor dear, immediately gave her salts. And so we'll do a little lavender spray. Poor Marianne. Okay. And Sir John felt so desperately enraged against the author of this nervous distress that he instantly changed his seat to one close by Lucy Steele and gave her in a whisper a brief account of the whole shocking affair. In a few minutes, however, Marianne was recovered enough to put an end to the bustle and sit down amongst the rest, though her spirits retained the impression of what had passed the whole evening. "Poor Marianne," said her brother to Colonel Brandon. "Oh, poor Marianne," said her brother to Colonel Brandon in a low voice, as soon as he could secure his attention. "She is not such good health as her sister. She is very nervous. She has not Elinor's constitution, and one must allow that there is something very trying in a young woman who has been a beauty, in the loss of her personal attractions. You would not think it, perhaps, but Marianne was remarkably handsome a few months ago, quite as handsome as Elinor. Now you see it is all gone." Just because she has emotions, or what? Why do you think her beauty's all gone? Just because she cries easily? Sir? What is the deal? Is she really changed that much? What a fun chapter. I don't know why I Googled so much. Thank you all for watching. We did get through one chapter. These are kind of longer chapters. I feel like during Pride and Prejudice, I was able to get through a few more chapters, but it's okay. We're just slow baby steps. I know you guys are all supposed to watch What About Bob and get back to me. Like and comment and subscribe on this content if you're into it. Just kidding. You don't have to do anything. I would like, I love a dialogue and some interaction, but I get it. Join me next time for Sense and Sensibility, Chapter 13. We'll see what happens. This is so fun. This is a fun book, and I'm sad that it's everybody's last book to pick for their favorite Jane Austen book, but it's fun to me. But we'll see. I haven't finished it. So join me next time. Happy reading, everybody, and take care, and ta-ta.